are and listening to Tags Live, aka Talk About Gay Sex, the live edition. I'm your host, Stevie. It's Wednesday night. We're live streaming alongside Kodi Maurice Doggette. How the hell you doing, Kodi?
Hello, darling. I'm doing wonderful in Brooklyn this evening. You know, my new home state, Brooklyn.
I love that. We're going to be talking about that in a little bit. Insider joke, soon to be non-insider joke.
Yeah. All right, we'll get to it.
We will get to it. Absolutely. Feeling good here, doing good. All right. We have a lot to get into on this episode 421 as this show gets repackaged. I wanted to follow up on what we were talking about on TAGSPodcast 420 the other day about the Supreme Court. And remember, Kodi, we were talking about how the Supreme Court took up a case that was a female web designer who wants to design wedding websites for clients. And the whole thing we were talking all about how she doesn't want to design for same-sex couples, and the Supreme Court has been talking all about this. What we didn't talk about on episode 420 that I think is kind of important is the whole thing is hypothetical. In other words, there's no case where she has clients. In fact, she just wants to, in the state of Colorado, start a web business designing websites for married couples or potential married couples. She just doesn't want to get caught up in the event that she would get a same-sex couple coming to her. So all of this is hypothetical. And so the fact that the Supreme Court took it up because she brought it up to her state, and then it went all the way to the Supreme Court, some of the Supreme Court justices were actually talking about the alleged hypothetical situations, bringing up crazy things. I think it was Justice Alito who was saying things like, what if a black Santa Claus in a mall had to see a white baby that was dressed in a Ku Klux Klan? Would he then be able to turn away the baby these are the kinds of crazy hypothetical things that they were actually bringing up. It's ridiculous. I didn't realize the whole thing was hypothetical and not even fact. Did you, when we were talking about this?
No, I didn't know at all. I was like, what? Oh, this woman has 1 million clients. She's made 1 million websites and she knows what she's doing, but she's a website developer with no websites. How dreadful. She's just the worst. I can't even understand it. And hypothetically, she won't have any clients after this. So,
well, exactly. And the whole thing is, I got to thinking more about this. And first of all, you can build your own website these days, like with programs like Wix. I back in the day, I was talking about on episode 420, we had a fashion lifestyle website. Well, we were video based. We hired somebody out and we were working with them closely, and I said I hired somebody that was gay and that knew about fashion to do the website for TAGSPodcast. I just used one of the ones, I think Square Up, that we used. Squarespace, thank you.
Okay.
And it worked fine. So most people that develop that want a wedding website, it's temporary. Do you really need to even hire somebody? So she's kind of irrelevant and hypothetical to begin with, in my mind.
Yeah.
Just the whole idea of it. I just think it all comes from a divisive point of view that's really reflective of what's going on in our country anyway. The fact that everyone wants to be divided. Everyone's coming down on the LGBTQ community. And this just fits right into the landscape of where we're at. But
really sad. She's really sad. Alito is sad.
Yeah.
It's just a sad situation.
Well, in Virginia, and we were talking about this online, this is kind of a relevant, related story, a Virginia restaurant. And I was actually asking you, Kodi, is it in my imagination, or are you from Virginia? Or I feel like you say two different places, and which one's the lie?
Okay, both of them are the truth. There's no lies told here. I don't.
And now Brooklyn. So
This is
what
my
do we
home
got?
state now.
Okay, the titties say Brooklyn.
The titties say Brooklyn, honey. Okay, she's a Brooklyn girl, gal right now, and I was born in Florida.
Oh my God, we're
I know,
going
right?
back.
So here we go. Back in the day, back in
Okay, wait, it's an hour podcast, so we
1902.
only got so
I
much time.
know. No, I was born in Florida, but my mom moved around so much. But the two main places that we lived predominantly were Virginia and New Jersey. I used to live in Hampton, Virginia. We lived
Okay.
my father's side of the family is from there, so that's another reason why I claim Virginia as my home state. And my mother's side is from New Jersey. So
Okay.
that's why I claim New Jersey as my home state as well. So I'm from two places. I'm a man
Okay.
of many origins.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure you're not making things up, and I'll check
No,
your
never.
work. Got
Yeah.
it.
So I mean, but I grew up a lot of places. I lived in Kansas before too.
That's right. You mentioned Kansas before
Yeah,
too. Oh
in
my
North
goodness.
Carolina. We went back to Florida. We've been around the world, and now yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay, Lisa Stansfield. I love it. All right. Well, currently in Virginia, there's a restaurant that canceled a reservation of an anti-LGBTQ plus organization. It's called the Metzger Bar and Butchery. Actually, one of the chefs on there, she's been on things like Top Chef before, which is kind of cool. I'm surprised I didn't recognize her name, Brittany Anderson.
Oh,
Well, the restaurant canceled the reservation for an event hosted by a conservative organization, and they were citing things like the nonprofit's condemnation of same sex marriage and abortion rights. Metzger Bar and Butchery, a German inspired eatery in Richmond,
hmm,
canceled the booking made by the Family Foundation. They did it. I was hearing about it. They didn't give them that much time, but the restaurant said it has always refuse service to anyone for making our staff uncomfortable or unsafe. And this is the driving force behind our decision. Many of our staff are women and or members of the LGBTQ plus community. All our staff are people with rights who deserve dignity and a safe
yes.
space. The Family Foundation is accused the restaurant. Oh, and like I said, the foundation seeks, according to the restaurant, seeks
Hmm.
to deprive women and LGBTQ plus people of their basic human rights in Virginia. Um, the Family Foundation went on to accuse the restaurant of canceling the restaurant an hour before, and they went as far as to say, "We've been canceled again," said the group's president, and they likened it to earlier times of when Black people were not allowed to dine in restaurants. They said, "Welcome to the 21st century, where people who likely consider themselves progressive attempt to recreate an environment from the 50s and early 60s when people were denied food service due to their race." Okay, not the same thing at all.
What? The
Had
audacity.
Exactly.
Ugh.
And, I was listening to some news reports on this, and the restaurant had every right when it has to do with your political beliefs. So, in other
Yes.
words, you can refuse service if it disagrees with your political beliefs or goes against your political beliefs. When it isn't cool, and this is across the country, this
Hmm.
you can refuse service. When it isn't allowed is when it's for religious reasons, if they denied him for that, which would be really hard to prove and doesn't sound like this case at all,
Hmm.
or obviously if they were Black. So
Yes.
that's where this president of this organization gets it all wrong. The 50s and 60s had to do with refusing people just because they were Black.
Yeah.
That you cannot do anymore in this country.
It's
So it's apples
discriminatory.
and oranges, and I don't
Yeah.
even know what she's talking about. What were your thoughts when this restaurant said, "No, absolutely,
Yeah.
you cannot"?
I totally agree with the restaurant, and I'm so proud of them. I think that when in this instance, these are the very people that are trying to deny people their rights, basically.
Right.
So to turn around and kind of deny them service is totally, it's so ironic and delicious, and I love every moment of it. I wish more establishments stood up for the workers the way this one has taken a stand. I I've worked so many places where I felt demeaned at the very least, and nothing was ever done. So I get that it's sometimes hard for an establishment to turn down money in favor of their staff, and I'm really just proud of this establishment for really sticking to their guns and letting this group know that this is not a place for where discrimination, because they're the ones that want to discriminate at the end of the day. So that it won't stand in this establishment.
Right. And we don't know what kind of event this was. Are they going to be promoting this kind of rhetoric at the event where many LGBTQ people work? It just doesn't work. And I'm glad they stood up for it. They got some great comments too, where people said, thank you for doing this. And now many people want to come to the restaurant.
I was going to say, should we go back to my home state of Virginia?
I would go, and I would go to this restaurant, and because it's a Top Chef, I love Top Chef. I'm a big fan of it, so I'm sure it's delicious. So let's make a trip to your hometown. You're one of your many.
Well, I dated a guy in Richmond. So if you want to know a story. The first time I ever had love at first sight was with this guy. He's from Richmond, and I would drive an hour from Hampton, where I'm from, to Richmond, Virginia, basically every week, and spend the weekend with him. It was beautiful. We were young. We were like 20.
He had 19, you whooped 20. If you were driving that amount. I barely want to go to Queens or Brooklyn to see anybody.
I left my good boots, combat boots there too, so I hope you still got them. Mr. You know your name, God damn it.
Are there any cool gay bars in Virginia?
Yes, there's so many.
I say we go to this restaurant and maybe do our show on the road and maybe at a local bar.
Are we taking this show on the road?
Yes. I'm planning some things. So let's talk about it. Well,
this is new to me. Oh my goodness.
Well, we are live every Wednesday night, and we welcome people who are watching us live, like Jen, who just said, hey guys, welcome back, Jen. We haven't seen you in a minute. And so feel free to say hi, ask questions, weigh in on hot topics. All right. Well, I wanted to read something from a listener who followed up on a previous story. Daniel says, hi, Steve. I've been faithfully listening to the podcast for a few years now. I'm usually doing laundry or yard work while listening. Anyway, I had to write as I was very heartened by the advice you and Kodi gave that HIV positive listener. And if you remember, we did this last Wednesday on episode 419. I'm also 48, became positive in 98, and spent the next 8 years dating with the stigma that exists in the gay community. So I can empathize. And when Kodi said that your other listener is worthy of love, I teared up. You two are good people. Thank you so much, Daniel, for letting us know. And yes, we were talking about stigma on HIV stigma and how it still exists. Clearly, obviously in 98, obviously before that, and like our listener last week, today even. So we'll keep talking about this. And always feel like you can DM us. You can always ask us for advice. Go to our Instagram at TAGSPodcast and DM us there, or go to our website, TAGSPodcast.com. Okay. I did not know this, Kodi, but apparently Oxford Dictionary comes out with a word of the year. This doesn't even relate to, we're going to make it relate to our show here. But, we talk about hot topics. I couldn't help but not want to talk about this. The word that Oxford University Press came up with that is this year, ready, drum roll, Goblin Mode. Goblin Mode. Have you
We
heard
go.
of Goblin Mode before?
No, am I going underneath a bridge? What's going on?
So apparently, Goblin Mode, the OUP Word of the Year, also known as the Oxford Word of the Year, was chosen by the public for the first time. A group came up with Goblin Mode over metaverse and
I like
hashtag
that one.
I like metaverse and hashtag I stand with.
I like that one more. Goblin Mode. That sounds like something I did back in the 90s. Under a bridge.
Well, according to the Oxford, so um, as you, here's how they describe it. Are you still in bed? Are there piles of clothes and takeout food boxes strewn across the floor? Do you have chip crumbs on your sheets? Have you broken your self care routine more times than you can count? Do you not even care? If so, you might already be in goblin mode. Like I said, this was the word. It also describes behavior which is unapologetically self indulgent, lazy, slovenly, or greedy, typically in a way that rejects social norms or expectations, traits that may have become familiar to many during lockdown. The only time I could relate to this a little bit maybe during lockdown
Mhm.
because I think we were all going stir crazy, and who was I cleaning the apartment for? And I just got used to things just being
Oh,
around. But I definitely got this way when I broke my ankle earlier this year when I couldn't really get around and things were everywhere in this apartment. I mean, I think I did the show here, but there was empty bags of this here. There was
yeah.
open bottles, and I just couldn't get around, and I also didn't care. All I could care about was just getting through this, but I couldn't move around. But definitely during lockdown, did you ever have any moments where you had what they're calling goblin mode?
I think that when I am in, it sounds to me like a depressive state, honestly. So when I
Yeah,
get into those states,
yeah,
I get really OCD. I clean a lot, especially if I'm
yeah,
going to be in the place that I am in all the time, like I was in lockdown.
yeah.
So I tend to get more clean, and I get in goblin mode. I guess this is a thing that we're doing. It sounds like
I don't think we're
denial.
doing it. It's just the
Oh,
word
okay,
of the yeah that they came
okay.
up with.
When I'm really busy, that's when I get in my goblin mode. That's when I'm like, there's clothes everywhere
Yeah.
because and Joe will not let me do goblin mode personally. He is very particular about how his living space.
Oh, yeah. See, that's the thing. We're going to be talking about living together in an upcoming topic soon. But
Mhm.
the one thing that I don't do or I haven't done, except if I'm in a hotel, is eat in
Mhm.
my bed. I don't.
Oh, yeah.
I don't
No.
really. I don't. Yeah, because I don't want crumbs and all that
Who
crap in
wants
my bed.
crumbs in their bed?
Yeah, that I think you've lost it. If you're starting to do that, you need to really seek help. I think. I
I've
mean,
eaten ice cream in my bed though. What about that? Is that okay?
yeah, I mean, I don't think there's anything wrong. Yeah, that's okay. As long as you don't make a mess. No ice cream sundaes or hot
You
fudge.
know what I used to do? Oh my gosh, I'm crazy. I used to lay a towel or a blanket out if I wanted to eat anything in the bed because and then I would just fold up the towel, put it right in the dirty clothes hamper, and
Oh,
then
that's a way around it. You can also do that. I mean, people do that with sex too, right?
oh,
Okay.
oh, maybe that's where I got it from.
Or people that are really into food and sex, I think. Yeah.
Oh, the whipped cream. I
Yeah.
definitely need to get those vinyl or plastic sheets. Sounds like they have multiple uses now. So,
Jin watching us live says, I used to eat in my bed when I rented a room and was not allowed to use the kitchen. Oh, well, yeah, you got to do what you got to do. I
yeah.
mean, if that's where you had to eat, you had to eat there. Um, yeah, absolutely. I do it sometimes in hotel rooms a little bit if
Yeah.
I'm, particularly by myself. But like to your point, when you're with somebody and 9 times out of 10, everybody I get hooked up with, they're neat freaks and
Mhm.
absolutely not would probably cut off my hands if I brought anything food wise to the bed. So yeah, not happening.
Me and those clothes would be in the Hudson somewhere. We would be.
Right,
I,
exactly. All right, moving on. Bali. I've always wanted to go to Bali. Most people have always talked about Bali being such a beautiful, maybe spiritual place. You might want to think twice about going there anytime soon, as gay tourists could face jail in Bali after Indonesia passed a new sex ban law. Now, stay with me because
Okay.
it's not, you may or may not be a serious issue thing. On Tuesday, in a unanimous vote, the Indonesian parliament made sex outside of marriage illegal. So the ban is part of a larger overhaul of the country's criminal code, which would make extramarital sex punishable by a year in jail. Couples who are not married but live together could be jailed for 6 months or fined 10 million rupiah, I think it's called.
Oh,
The,
wow.
the penalties will apply to everyone in Indonesia, including tourists. But here's the catch, Kodi. In
Okay.
order to make an arrest, the police must get a complaint from a close family friend, which is so
What?
bizarre. So that's why I don't think really you have to worry if you're a tourist, because what close family friends, Kodi, or do you, since you lived everywhere, do you have in Bali? You might want to
I gotta be careful. You never know. Actually, you know what? My
uh
dad does live in the
oh.
Philippines.
Oh, in the Philippines.
Yes.
Okay.
So I mean, it's close. It's close
Yeah.
enough.
Yeah.
You never know with that man. He might call in Bali, and he might be on the phone to Bali in 2 seconds talking about me. So you never know.
This is crazy to me, though, because people that are not married, so anybody can, if somebody could call the authorities on you and you could be in jail for that. The way it affects our LGBTQ plus is you can't get married
Yeah.
in Bali, Indonesia. So it's you're fucked essentially,
Hmm.
because you can't get married. So you can't even rectify that by getting married. So then you can have sex with your partner.
And
So
then
it's
have
all going to
sex.
be in secret. I mean, what happens behind your doors happens behind your doors. But what if you had that one cousin, Kodi, that just didn't like you, or an enemy that could now essentially, this goes into effect I think in 3 years, but
Oh,
I'd get
okay.
out if I were
Yeah.
you,
Yeah.
because if you have any enemies, they could call the cops on you and say I'm a close family friend.
They can be the cousin. They can pretend to
Yeah.
be your cousin.
And what is this going to be like on a Judge Judy type situation in Indonesia, where prove how you know the person really well, a close family friend? Are you going to have receipts on your phone that you're going to
In
pull up?
in the
I
time of
mean,
CCV and
close family
CCTV.
friend
Yeah.
is ridiculous.
This law is archaic, but they really took a big swing. They really outlawed all extramarital sex.
Yeah.
I would totally move. Me and you would be out of Indonesia so fast. We would be packing our bags, saying goodbye to the shady ass family that we got there. And I don't understand how they want anybody to even live there.
It's
But
crazy. Oh, go ahead. Yeah. Sorry.
it's like we're taking one step forward and two steps back, because just like we reported last week, oh my god, I was going to say last year. Just like we reported last week in Singapore, they are on the road to approving gay marriage. So maybe this is in like direct effect of that happening, because they totally made decriminalize gay sex in
Yeah, they
Singapore.
do. Yeah, so they decriminalize gay sex in Singapore, but are nowhere near approving gay marriage in Singapore. So it was like a win and a loss. But at least you can
Mhm.
have sex in Singapore.
Yeah.
That now gay sex. Bali. The crazy thing also about Bali, like we were talking about at the beginning, is it's such a destination. I think when you think about those tropical places that you want to go to, those destinations that are just oozing with the tropics, yoga,
Yeah.
meditation, where you really want, is Bali. Everybody wants to go to Bali. I mean, don't barely know anything about it, but I know that I used to want to go there just because meditation, and I love yoga and doing all
Mhm.
those. I know plenty of gay yoga instructors who have had their retreats there,
Mhm.
and it's going to be such a deterrent now for our community to go there. Tourism is going to plummet based
Plummet.
on this,
going to be done.
really bad move,
Yeah.
Bali, Indonesia, for doing this.
Do you know if the same applies for Singapore? Do they have the same culture as far as, do you know anything about traveling to Singapore at all? Does
The only
anybody know in the comments too? Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean Singapore is very Western in general, so it's very. I mean, you go there, it's very much has many of the Starbucks, all the things that we like on here in the States.
Mhm.
Bali is totally different,
Okay.
but but
Ah,
you
there
can
it
now
is.
have gay sex in Singapore. So
Yeah,
yeah,
maybe. I was going to say, I would just know that I would rather spend my money in Singapore than in Indonesia.
yeah, right. All right. Well, moving on to, I love this story because there is a gay reverend out there who he went to the reading room on this troll. And I just got to read you some of these things. It's
Yes.
a gay reverend. He went viral kind of for his sassy response to a hater who questioned how he could possibly teach Christianity while also sleeping with men. And the Reverend's responses were simply priceless. So the Reverend's name is Daniel Brereton. He's a Reverend at St. John's Dixie Anglican Church in Mississauga, Ontario. Did I say that
Okay.
right, Cody?
I think it's Mississauga.
Oh, Mississauga. I knew I was going to get it wrong. Mississauga, Ontario, which is going to be your drag queen name upcoming.
Well, I decided to give it to the Reverend because now I want to see the Reverend in a RuPaul's Drag Race reading challenge because of this story now. It's iconic.
Yes,
Please go.
absolutely. Okay, so the Reverend, like we said, he put up this tweet exchange. So the guy that wrote in said, WTF, the crank began. How can someone who has sex with men teach people about the Bible? Well, Brereton responded, sex with men? The reports of my sex life have been greatly exaggerated. Unamused, the hater responded, even one man is a sin. The Reverend wrote back, you must know my ex. The hater then wrote, you can't teach the word of God while having sex with men. The Reverend, this is priceless. Are you speaking from experience? He wrote. Personally, I've
Girl.
never tried doing them at the same time. But I suppose if your camera was stable enough and your partner quiet enough and the people in your study group didn't mind, well, Burton
Consent is key.
really, yes. The hater replied, I don't understand all the people so deceived by you. As a Christian, I would never follow you. In which the Reverend accurately responded, as a Christian, you're supposed to be following Jesus. The hater responded, at least I don't fuck dudes. Brereton shot back, on behalf of every gay man on earth, thank you. Fuck you, said the hater. The good Reverend then clowned the hater, writing back, okay, you just said you wouldn't. You're sending a lot of mixed signals here. And after that, the hater apparently blocked the Reverend. Priceless. What a great
Yes.
exchange. What were your
Gold
first thoughts
star.
when you heard about him in this?
I love Mississauga. That's her drag name. I need for her to come out and teach
Yeah.
me her ways. The gays are undefeated as far as reading is concerned. This gives me so much life, and now I kind of know how I want to respond to haters. It's given me a way to communicate to them that this is not okay, that
Right.
uh, this is my line, and with wit and witticism rather than, because I can be a little bit brutal sometimes. I don't know if you guys have you heard my reading my roast on you. It was a little bit on the line. I was
A little, but not too bad. We'll
but
do
you're my
another one.
but you're my friend. So can you
Yeah.
imagine how it would be on somebody that is not my friend? I can get a little bit mean. So now this has given me a nice strict guideline of how I need to deal with people that are not so kind in the comments, because you this man has no hell or heaven to put anybody in. He has no place to judge anyone. if he believes in the Bible, then he knows that there's only one person that can judge him. And I'm not going to go on my reverend. I'm going to leave that for the Mississauga, the Reverend. I don't have a soapbox to be on, but I firmly believe that nobody on this earth can judge me except for my mama. That's the only person.
Right. It just goes along with the hate that we're seeing towards the community in the last year that it's so pervasive these days. Well, the one thing I liked about this article too by Queerty, I'll post this on TAGSPodcast.com so you could read the exchange yourself and maybe follow this Reverend too. I might want to go to one of his services in Mississauga, Ontario.
Yep, that's right.
The one thing that the article pointed out that's a good point: haters regularly interpret the Bible to condemn queers while ignoring its prohibitions against divorce, hypocrisy, and allowing poverty. But most of the Bible's condemnations against homosexuality are part of ancient Hebrew law, which most Christians ignore. Yes. Christians also seem to ignore the parts where Jesus stresses the importance of loving literally everyone, whether they're Christian or not, and the parts where he rails against those who profit off of others' suffering. And I think there's great things to remember about, Jesus does not say don't respond to violence with violence. So great points by this article, and I love this Reverend. Wow.
It's so good. Yeah. In the Bible, in the Old Testament, I believe that you're not even supposed to eat shrimp or wear mixed fabrics or anything like that.
Right. So, we don't interpret all that literal anymore if you are following the Bible. Yeah, so exactly. We won't go into more Bible talk here, but
I know, right?
Right.
I never thought in a million years we would be talking about the Bible.
Sometimes we break some rules here.
It's necessary sometimes.
Absolutely. All right. Well, a brand new U.S. Census study says that more than 1 million same-sex couple live here in the U.S. This marks the first time this figure, drawn from the Census Bureau American Community Survey, has exceeded 1 million. And they did this, it's the first time since 2021, according to the census data, since it was released in late November. The figure came to 1.2 million, including 710 households where same-sex couples were married and 500,000 where the couples were unmarried. It is based on information from the Census Bureau's American Community Survey. The number is significant, even though it doesn't reflect all LGBTQ plus. I didn't get a call.
I was going to say, where's mine?
Yeah, you know how they do this. The ACS does not identify all couples living together since it only collects information about each household member's relationship to the householder rather than about the relationship among all household members. And it's increased, Kodi, over the years. I think in 2008, it counted 540,000. So it's quite significant jump. Also, in 2019, it did reach 980,000. But you and I were talking offline that maybe one of the more recent developments is the pandemic. Back to the pandemic, where many people started dating. You met your boyfriend, Joe, during the pandemic. And for a lot of people, it became a thing of convenience to move in together, which could reflect... Then we'll talk about a couple other reasons why we thought we were talking about offline. But do you think a lot of people, and this is reflective of lockdown and the pandemic, where people really reached out to others, got into relationships, and just jumped over to moving in quicker than maybe they wouldn't have? I'm not saying you did this, but
I was like, what is the implication here, Steve?
Right.
No, but I honestly wouldn't say that I think that I don't think people are jumping into it too soon. I think that the pandemic, what it allowed them to do was really evaluate what was important to them. We got a lot of time to ourselves in the pandemic. So I think that people started to prioritize relationships and being with somebody, and just that having a person to love in their household. And I know that that's what I'm speaking from personal experience. And I think that during the pandemic, I really evaluated my relationship with myself and how I wanted to have a relationship with somebody else. And when the time came and I found the right person, that is when I wasn't willing to wait. I really just wanted to take advantage of this opportunity that I had been given and really explore it and see where it could go.
Yeah,
So
because
I
we had
think
lost
that
so
is
much
what I want.
time, right?
Yeah.
Excuse me. So, what are you waiting for? I think is kind of what you're talking about, and you just kind of
Yeah.
jumped, which is great. And
Plus,
yeah,
it looked like the zombie apocalypse. So I was like, oh no, I need to hurry up and have a boo here so we can fight it together. Sorry, that was a joke. Go ahead, what were you saying?
I love it. No, good for you, and I'm glad it's still working out. Yeah, I went a different road, and I've never lived with anybody, to believe it or
Mhm.
not, at 51. And I don't know if I will. Maybe someday, but
Yeah.
I'm kind of like my alone time, like dating, having them go home, having them spend the night several times. I
Yeah.
like that kind of thing. We'll see if I change that.
But
Yeah,
see, that feels like you got to evaluate
yeah,
what you want out of life and the type of
right.
relationship you would like to have, and you explore that, and this is what you have decided on. And that's perfectly acceptable. I think
Right.
that's wonderful that you
Uh,
know that,
yeah.
and that's what you want to actually go out for, and it'll come. You'll find
Well,
somebody
and the other
soon.
thing is, I notice I'm flexible, more flexible these days. So while that works for me now and has worked for me for the last 51 years, I am very flexible these days to be able to pivot and open-minded to something new that could happen in my life. Bring it on.
Yeah.
So it doesn't mean I'm locked in my ways. It's just mean this has been the story, but I'm open to change, absolutely, more so than maybe I was in the past. And that was one of the things the pandemic taught me. But when we
Beautiful.
were talking offline a little bit, we were also talking on why maybe some of these numbers beyond the pandemic, on why reporting how we've gotten to 1.2 million.
Mm.
And
Yes.
we were saying things like, I think people are more comfortable now. So in the past, in the 80s and 90s, if you had gotten a call from the census, I'm sure many pe- gay couples that lived together did not want to tell somebody on the other line that they were living with another same-sex person
Yeah.
because of the time frame, that what could happen if people knew about that, and you didn't want anybody to know anything. It's not to say that people didn't live together, it's just
Mhm.
that they were in more secrecy and private. Or when your mom came over to visit, that was your friend, your buddy, your
Your
roommate.
roommate.
Your roommate. Meanwhile, yeah, you were exactly. So
Oh,
I think
man.
it's reflective of the times of being more comfortable, more representation that we're seeing more, that people feel more comfortable to say, yes, of course, I live with my partner, and answering that census question, I think, is where
Yeah.
we're at. Yeah.
And I think it's also kind of reflective of what's going on in this country as far as gay marriage getting passed, and it's
Yeah.
more socially accepted. And so I think that it gives people more gumption to, I don't think that's the right word, but it's what I'm going
Yeah.
with right now.
I like
To
it.
It gives them more gumption to actually be able to declare their love for someone, their significant other.
Exactly. Absolutely. All right. Well, feel free to weigh in. We've got more hot topics coming your way, including this next one, which when I first read it was very cringe worthy to me. But
Mhm.
we'll break it down here.
Oh, you've had evolving
Yeah.
opinions since we
I
spoke.
do. Twitter users have been sounding off on what they're calling top privilege for years now, often in the context of foods that only tops can eat without concern. We're talking about fast food, dairy, coffee, which are not always bottom's best friends. And the former editor in chief of The Advocate, Zach Stafford, mentioned a no Chipotle before sex rule among bottoms in a 2013 HuffPost blog post that he titled, adding that that it's just one way in which tops have inherently greater privilege than do bottoms. So this is back in 2013.
Wow.
Well, there has been this article found tons of people, guys out there that are claiming top privilege out there. Like, for example, top privilege for dinner, and a guy is showing 4 Taco Bell packages right in his face, and he's looking into the camera. Another guy, dairy is top privilege, as he has like a Dairy Queen ice cream in front of him.
Mm-hmm.
Flaunted another guy, Gabe Gonzalez, flaunted my top privilege by eating McDonald's for lunch in front of the entire Scruff office. Rude. Another one had
Wait, how you gonna work for Scruff and do this? That is just not okay.
Well, I mean, they're not hooking up on at their lunch break,
I know,
so
but this is supposed to be a more inclusive,
I
more
know it seems like an
community.
obnoxious term
It
that people are
is.
putting all around. Another guy who goes by Dago Planco wrote, with his hand in his face and this thing, not me drunk at the club last night with a crunch wrap. What's a crunch wrap, Kodi?
It's from Taco Bell.
Oh, it sounds disgusting and I never want it.
Oh God, they're so good.
Oh my God. Somebody else wrote, top privilege is inhaling that Crunch Wrap Supreme like I just did.
Oh
Now
my
there's a Crunch
God,
Wrap
you're so cute.
Supreme. Oh my God. Somebody else put a picture of cheese. Somebody wrote, gay at work eating a mushroom and cheese pizza before going out clubbing. That's some top privilege. Somebody also wrote, had a bag of flaming hot Cheetos and a nice coffee for lunch today. The top privilege is out here. Cheesy stuffed jalapeno. Kodi, all of these foods I would never want in my vicinity at all as a bottom or a top or a side or any of the above.
Mhm,
Gross. I hate this kind of food. And I just think I wouldn't want, as a primarily bottom who tops these
uh-huh.
days too, I
Okay.
wouldn't want my top eating that junk either for the health reasons, and it's just disgusting. And by the way, don't bring it into bed. That stuff, like the last story we were talking about. Don't bring those messy Cheeto fingers into the bed. Disgusting. But what this is kind of top privilege, really. I think,
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
yeah. What were your thoughts when
I
you heard this?
Yeah, I so first and foremost, gordita crunches are delicious.
Oh,
And they have their time and place, so they're not for every day. They're some
okay.
special delicious treats that I have every now and then. I actually haven't had one in probably years, but still, I'm not going to deny myself. I am a firm believer in we should not deny ourselves if we really truly want something or desire something. Look, at the end of the day, butt sex, we all know, can be messy. And there's all it, I don't care if you eat ice for 3 days or if you've cleaned out for until the water it runs clear, and there's always a slim chance that something can happen. And I think that the top needs to understand this, and I think that the bottom definitely needs to understand this. And I think that we as tops, I'm a top, a feminine top. I'm a blouse. Okay.
Right.
I think that we should encourage our bottoms and love our bottoms and support our bottoms through anything. I encourage Joe, my boyfriend, to eat anything that he wants at any times that he wants, and I make him feel comfortable. I try not to make him feel any shame regarding anything that happens during sex. And you just clean it up, and hopefully you keep going. Butt sex is amazing. So I want to enjoy it as much as possible. And nothing is going to stop me from enjoying it.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, kind of sounds like these guys are throwing it in the face of the bottoms, like, "Ah, ha ha, I get to eat this and you don't."
Yeah,
And it's kind of it's obnoxious. It's not
that's
like you said,
obnoxious.
supporting your bottoms. And I know they're not talking to one person in particular. They're just being silly, and it's a trend. So whatever. But I do not want to be with any of those top guys, primarily because I
Yeah.
don't like any of those foods. So I don't want them in my vicinity. sorry, I don't want a gordita or what is that thing called? The wrap.
I'm gonna get you
Ugh, no.
something from Taco Bell. You have a
None of I
don't you
don't
have a
need I don't
Taco
like
Bell on your corner still?
yes, and I like
We're
totally
going.
put up blinders when I walk by. I hate junk food. I mean, I don't like junk food at all. I like really delicious food, like yummy, and I don't mind indulging in
That
delicious
is
food,
delicious food.
but that's junk. And if I'm going to waste my calories, it's not going to be on a gordita. I tell you that I'm going to
Yeah.
go to a really good
Okay.
Mexican restaurant and get some really good tamales, which or something
Ooh.
that's delicious
But
and
see, that's not
homemade with real
quote
ingredients,
unquote
not
on
Velveeta
the bottom diet.
cheese.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, the way I don't worry about it too much anymore because ever since I Pure for Men came out, that and I don't eat, and because I don't eat a lot of that junk stuff, I kind of it keeps me on a regular plan, and it's clean down there. Also, we're gonna have Dr. Goldstein, the good ass
Ooh.
doctor, on
That's a
in the
question
early
for
bit
him.
of the year. He has a new product that is also cleans you out, and he's got some great products we're going to be talking about that you won't want to miss. So stay tuned for
Can't
that.
wait.
Yeah, all good
I'm gonna
stuff.
teach some top etiquette classes, by the way.
I
Just
think
you
you
just wait.
should. Yeah,
How to
not
love your bottom
thank
in
you.
order to
I
get a
don't
bottom.
thank you very much. All right. Well, I think we should go to the Reddit thread first
Okay.
because yeah, this is a fun Reddit thread that I saw that harkens back to an earlier times, but I wanted to bring it up again. The person Basic Detective on Reddit wrote, gyms. I am a big fan of saunas and steam rooms and usually try to join gyms that have these amenities. People always assume that gay men when are cruising when in these. I am 31 and have never noticed this. Am I not paying attention, or was this more a thing in the past? Well, you can imagine some people said depending on the gym, there can be a fine line between looking, admiring, and cruising. Somebody else wrote. Somebody says it depends on the gym, but it can be pretty easy to miss if you aren't actively looking. My
Mhm.
partner never noticed the cruising at our old gym, but I thought it was really obvious. Somebody said the old Bally's, one of their Bally's, so many dicks were out. I think times were different though. The older I get, the less cruisy the gyms seem to be. And I would agree
Yeah.
with that last part
Mhm.
because in the 90s, when I used to go to the gyms in San Francisco, and even in
Mhm.
the early 2000s in LA and even here in New York,
Mhm.
the saunas were a fun place to be.
Oh yeah.
And even I have 24-hour fitness here in New York City that doesn't exist anymore on 26th Street. I remember the guy was right. Would happen at particular times. So, like a Friday night at 9 o'clock at night when the gym isn't that busy, you could get lucky in the sauna because there weren't that many people policing and running around with towel
Mhm.
service, and you could have a lot of fun and get your workout in. And that beat for many weekends for me going out, because if I was broke at that time, I knew I could get
Mhm.
laid and get a workout in.
Oh,
And
look at
I
you.
know you
Multitasking. I
gotta
love it.
be, yeah, absolutely. But sadly, I think those days are kind of over. I don't know, Cody. I
Yeah.
mean, and when you do, we take Lincoln's fitness class every once in a while, sometimes before we
Mhm.
record Tag's podcast. And it's at this premier, we're not going to say the name right now, but premier gym with all the bells and whistles, and all the gays are there with their hot bodies. And I've been in that locker room, and I don't know. I think we're at a time now where nobody wants to do anything kind of thing like that.
Mhm.
Maybe the OnlyFans kind of people out there are willing to break the rules and get some content. I don't know
Mhm.
though, because apparently that's against the rules of OnlyFans to
Yeah.
produce content in public places. I just think times have changed and we're a little bit prudish, and we crack down on those things.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. I think that back in the late 2000s, early 90s, it was literally everywhere. I could go to the gym, get a little workout in, a great pump, and then head to the sauna. At one time, oh my god, I was in the shower and this guy was like right across from me and looking into my shower stall, and I was looking at him in from my shower stall, and we were like, but just
This is
rubbing
going
one out.
down.
We were rubbing one out while watching each other shower. And then we got together and we went back to his house and it was on and popping. It was very, very hot. And I definitely have enjoyed myself many times in a sauna situation. It there were there's been a decline. I think that the gyms in and of themselves have really cracked down on this type of
Yeah.
interactions in their gyms, in the steam rooms in particular. But I really think if you know the right place to go and the right place to look for, then you can find something out there. Because I
Oh,
think
I'm sure.
oh yeah, the gay gyms are always the place for you to go and have this type of interaction if you want to. This experience, this lovely
They
time that
can
you want to have.
They can be some of the hottest experiences. And I remember back in, like you said, back in the 90s and early 2000s, I remember I worked at a radio station and we were in Northern California, but we had a week long remote of all places at Disney World in Florida, Orlando. And
Those queens.
in my hotel, which must have been the Disney hotel that we were staying at. So Disney, I
Mhm,
remember I went into the sauna and there was a man in there, and for
mhm.
some reason it was just the two of us, and we got closer and closer and rubbed one out each. Not inside. We were just stroking each other. We didn't like come inside the
Ooh!
but I was like, we're at a
Look,
Disney hotel and
that's
this happened.
awesome.
But this was back in the day when I think things happened more freely like that and people didn't police as much.
Yeah,
They're on
that's
to us now.
I know, right? But that was the best place to do it. You're in the shower. You can clean it up really easily.
Yeah.
And I know that in the gym that I used to go to, it's now they tore it down. The one on
Oh,
23rd.
yes.
You know which one I'm
I
talking
know which
about.
one. Yep.
I know them cleaning up that sauna. I know that it was
It was
disgusting
like
in
cleaning up
there.
a bathhouse. Yeah. Because they weren't cleaning it up like every night.
Yeah,
So like they
I'm
do the bathhouses,
I'm so
hopefully.
I wanna just apologize to those people. I'm really sorry that you have to clean up my my comb.
Right. Oh
Also, I
my
just wanna
God.
mention that this was in the late '90s, in the early 2000s is when
Right.
kind of when Grindr came out. So, I think that
Well, in the
people being
2000s, Grinder came out. Right.
okay. Okay. Uh, if you so that I think that when Grinder came out, then a lot of this culture went to the wayside because sex is so readily findable on Grinder
Yeah.
now.
I
Yeah.
agree. Absolutely. Yeah. Times have changed, sadly. But all right. Last story here. A Reddit thread asked gay guys, what's their biggest turnoff? What's their biggest turnoffs in the bedroom? This was on Ask Gay Bros, and people had a lot to say. Say you are in the middle of hot sex enjoying, and then this kills the moment, the person quizzed. The thread gained over 100 responses in a little over 12 hours. The top one, though, as many can imagine, was poor
Mhm.
hygiene. Poor
Yeah.
hygiene was the most well liked comment. There were also variations on the theme, with others mentioning bad breath, body
Mhm.
odor, smell of doo doo, and dick cheese. Ugh, yuck.
The
Following poor
smell of
hygiene,
doo-doo.
yeah. Following poor hygiene were a range of answers like cuddling. We all want a bit of cuddling. People are exclusively, so somebody wrote, people who are exclusively the little spoon, said one user. And we were talking offline, and I don't think you understood what the little spoon was. I immediately
I
imagined
know.
what it was. Oh, did you know?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm the big spoon. Joe is the little spoon.
Ah, okay.
But
I've been both,
yeah.
and I've been both with different sized people, and this will come up in a second. 80% of the guys I've been with, they said, tops and bottoms only want to be the little spoon or lay on my chest.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I'm not super into cuddling and I don't mind being the big spoon, but every once in a while I want to feel safe too.
Yeah,
Well, one guy agreed. He's 6'3" and definitely a bear. Nobody ever considers I might want to be held sometimes. And that's so sweet
that
that,
is so sweet.
yeah, I do agree though that a lot of people don't like cuddling at all with your hookups. And it's kind of a dicey situation. I personally, if I spend the night with you, I was into you, I like a little pillow talk, a little conversation, and don't mind a little bit of cuddling. Did you, when you were single, like that? And
I,
were you always the big spoon?
I am a stage 25 clinger. I will be on you. I
Right?
am like a barnacle on a boat because I am a cuddle monster. This is like from the lips of my boyfriend because I hold on to him like there's no tomorrow. The good thing about Joe is that if I do turn over or if I get
Right.
tired of cuddling him, because it does happen. Sometimes you do want to be held as a person. I have needs also as well, so they have to be fulfilled. He does cuddle me as well, so it's a give and take. But
Yeah.
I am the main cuddler in my relationship
The big
and
spoon.
the big spoon, and he loves it.
I
So
love that. Well, other things that people said that annoyed or big turnoffs in the bedroom had to do with nipples and rough play. So things like overly rough. If you don't know somebody's really into that, don't go hard on the nipples because that can really turn somebody off. Or being also too aggressive and rough. I think if you don't know that person's barometer, if you just met them, I've had that situation before where I brought somebody back. We were kind of toying with the whole Dom sub thing. I was being the sub, but I was toying around with it a little bit. When we got home, he was smacking me around. I had to put a stop on and kick him out. I was like, "Oh, absolutely not! I'm not getting beat up today."
a black guy is not on my list of things. I am a little bit too rough though sometimes, but a black guy is not on my to-do list. No, ma'am. No, Pam. No.
A what guy?
Uh, what?
What did you
I
say?
I forgot already. It was so spontaneous. I
Okay.
apologize.
No, I thought you said a black guy.
I don't want a black eye.
Oh,
No.
a black eye. Okay, I
No.
heard black guy. I'm like, what? A black eye.
I
Yes.
definitely don't want people to get that confused. I don't
I
want
know.
a
That's why I
black
was like,
eye.
got it. Okay. Lastly, other boner killers included, get this, Cody, back to the bedroom, food crumbs in the bed. Back to that again. A messy house or bedroom. I don't mind if it's a little messy. Sometimes you don't know, your place isn't always, but the
Yeah.
bed, if you walked into someone's bedroom and it was just trashed, and there were things like, sometimes I've been where the sheets off
Ooh.
the bed, I would almost turn around and leave. I know. Because I
So
would be worried I would see a gordito sitting next to the sheet.
what I've done before, I have not been prepared for company, and I made them wait outside. I would go inside and clean up because my mother taught me better than that. Have you ever done that before?
Quickly, yes, I have actually. Like, just wait over here, and everyone's does a zhuzh, of course.
Don't
That's
move.
classic. Yeah, I think, yeah, that's in a great Christmas movie. Oh my gosh, the one that's playing right. Oh, I can't think of it. Anyways, it's a great
Mhm.
Christmas movie, and they do that in that movie. Daddy watching us live says I'm 6'3.5" Oh my gosh. So I tend to be the big spoon. Yeah. Do you like to be the little spoon ever though? Because I think sometimes we need to look out for our different sized people too, that larger ones. They like
I
to be spooned as well.
I asked him
Oh,
that, and he said he likes being the big spoon.
okay.
So
Then
that's
you like your,
amazing.
yeah, that's
He's
great.
getting his needs fulfilled. That's all that matters.
I love it. Thanks everybody for playing along. The show does get repackaged tomorrow, Thursday, December 8th. It's episode 421. And you can always follow my co-host Cody He's a life coach. Follow him at KMD Coaching on Instagram, KMD Coaching, or at Mr. Maurice. Mr. Maurice. Follow me at I am underscore Steve V. I am underscore Steve V on Instagram, or of course at Tags Podcast. You can go to tagspodcast.com to get all the show notes and everything you need to know about the show. Thanks everyone for watching us live. And in the meantime, Kodi, continue having hot gay
Gay
sex.
sex.
Yes.
Yeah.